This is day 33 of my GMAT preparation. Today I'm going to demonstrate to you some of the principles that will help you improve your score on the reading comprehension question type of the GMAT, while also sharing some of my learnings while I go through quant and data sufficiency practice sets. Before I go there, you should know that I scored a 99 percentile score on the GMAT the last time I took the test. That helped me get an MBA from my dream B school, which was Columbia Business School in New York. However, the test format and scoring methodology have undergone major changes since then. That brings us to the important question: can I achieve my goal of getting to a 99 percentile score on the GMAT Focus Edition with confidence and certainty? This video is one among a series of videos where you get to come along with me on my journey and observe and learn from my learning process. As I was hinting earlier, I'm going to go through 3 practice sets today: quant, data sufficiency, and reading comprehension. I will pause after each practice sets and share some of my learnings and observations with you. Before I start with my practice sets, here is a question that I want you to think about. If you were given infinite time, do you think spending more time per question will necessarily lead to an improvement in your accuracy when answering reading comprehension questions? Why or why not? What if we were talking about quant questions or data sufficiency questions instead? Think about that while I quickly jump into my quant practice set. Alright, so that was 60 minutes in total. I spent 40 minutes solving 21 quant questions in total. Another 20 minutes were spent checking my answers and conducting a deeper performance analysis. I'll start with the bad news. I only answered 18 out of 21 questions correctly today. Just yesterday, I was making a joke about how the GMAT flirts with you by making it easy one day and then giving you an attitude adjustment right after. I guess today is my attitude adjustment day. Let's talk about the 3 questions I answered incorrectly. Starting with question 20 first, because I have it right in front of me. On this one, the mistake was actually entirely avoidable. My approach to the question was correct and I almost got to the right answer. The problem is I made a mistake towards the end because the quality of attention I was investing into this question wasn't good enough. All I needed to do was add the number 1 to my final answer and I would have answered this question correctly. Unfortunately, I missed that, partly because I was squeezing my scratch work and partly because I was not paying enough attention. The learning is to just keep track of how attentive I'm being when reading and solving through GMAT questions. Next, let's talk about question 13. This was another question where the mistake was avoidable. I did almost everything right except for one minor detail. What did not help matters is that this question had several pieces of detail that I needed to incorporate when arriving at my final answer. Unfortunately, I missed incorporating one of those pieces of detail and as a result ended up picking the wrong answer. The last one I'll talk about is question number 10. This was also a self goal. On this one, I was supposed to find the highest power of 5, which is a factor of a given expression. I mixed up the approach that I should be taking when the given expression is purely numerical versus when the given expression partially consists of variables. If I had just kept going for a while, I would have actually been able to answer this question right. The mistake here was jumping to a conclusion prematurely without identifying the nuance of the situation that made it different from some of the other situations I've encountered in the past. Next up, data sufficiency. Alright, so that was about 80 minutes in total. 60 minutes of that was spent in solving 20 questions and 20 minutes in conducting a performance analysis. On this one, I should just show you 2 metrics on the time I took on question numbers 11 and 13. As you can see on the screen, the numbers clearly don't look pretty. On question 11, I couldn't even figure out what to do. I pretty much gave up on this problem. Not fun, but I will get back to it in a few days to see if I'm able to crack a clean approach to solve through it. Question number 13, I did answer it right, but it took much longer than I'd like. If I were to quickly show you my notes, the biggest challenge with this problem was that it was very convoluted and hence took me a lot of time to process. The variables I ended up using got convoluted as well. Outside of that, my approach was correct and also consistent with what is suggested in the official guide. Overall, I did fine with accuracy on the data sufficiency practice set today. The problem is velocity, where I went way over my target time of 45 minutes. Based on what I know today about the data insight section and how I have been doing on that section, my current viewpoint is that I need to be as quick as possible on the data sufficiency question type. That will help me manage time overall on the data insight section. Today's metrics are not looking good and I will need to keep working to either raise my velocity on this question type or find ways to manage time better by giving up on harder questions faster. Yes, you heard that right. Giving up on questions on the GMAT is not always a bad thing. In fact, it can help you save your score from crashing. I will talk about that more in a dedicated video on time management and link that somewhere up here when it is out. Coming up next, reading comprehension. Alright, that was another 75 minutes or so. 48 minutes of that were spent on solving 23 reading comprehension questions. And by now you already know what I did with the rest of the time. The good news on this practice set is that I answered all of the 23 questions right on this practice set. Before we get too excited, it is important to also call out that this practice set had 4 easy, 11 medium and 8 hard questions. If you recall my video from yesterday, the practice set there had 5 medium, 16 hard and 0 easy questions. I was only able to answer 15 out of those 21 questions correctly yesterday. So yeah, I can't get excited about the fact that my accuracy on reading comprehension is at 100% today. Who knows what kind of mood swing GMAT is going to have tomorrow. All of that said, there were 4 questions on this practice set where I was not fully confident or certain in my answers. I was able to get them right, but on a bad day that can always go against you. As you can see in my notes, I'm referring to questions 6, 13, 14 and 17 from my practice set. So all I will say is that on 3 of these questions, I was split between 2 answer options, while on the 4th, I went with an answer option where I was maybe 60% confident in the answer. In terms of velocity, I think I did things just right on this practice set. If this trend continues across all my verbal practice sets, that would be a signal that I can focus a little less on actively managing time on that section, and I will still end up doing fine. There is one important thing that I do want to call out about reading comprehension questions. When I'm conducting performance analysis for this question type, I focus heavily on understanding the logic and reasoning behind questions where I was split between 2 or more answer options. In particular, I try to recall and relive the moment when I was answering that question and identify why I was split among those options. Was it because I misunderstood the passage or forgot reading a certain detail, or is it because I entirely glossed past something and missed some detail altogether? At the end of the day, the cure needs to be adjusted to the diagnosis. And if your diagnosis is incorrect, you are not going to be making proper improvements. So as you go through performance analysis on reading comprehension questions, do your best to relive the moment where you were solving that question and ask yourself those questions and try to identify the right diagnosis. Alright, so it's time for me to answer the brain tease I had issued at the start of this video. Logically, reading comprehension questions require you to do the following things while you're reading the passage. Build a mental model about the topic under discussion, understand relationships among various entities, and understand the tone and purpose of the author or the passage. To be clear, that list is neither mutually exclusive nor collectively exhaustive. It is purely indicative. But here is why that matters. The way to get good at reading comprehension questions is by getting good at building mental models faster and more accurately. Beyond that, everything else comes down to memory, such as remembering certain phrases or details from the content. However, when it comes to building mental models, reading the same content over and over again in a short span of time can actually confuse you because you will begin to mix various interpretations instead of cleanly delineating them and choosing one that seems most appropriate. When it comes to memory, remember the 45-minute time limit. GMAT is not testing your long-term memory. If it is testing your memory at all, it is only interested in how much you can retain for a short period of time. You don't need to memorize the content of a passage for life. Because of all this, in my experience, your accuracy on reading comprehension questions might go up a little if you relax the time limit. But after a certain point, spending additional time on the same passage continuously will actually bite and frustrate you. You might benefit more by just taking a quick break and then returning to the reading comprehension question at a later point. That is also a hint for a future topic. How and when should you use the bookmarks feature on the GMAT so you are managing your time and attention appropriately on the verbal section in particular? Think about that and share your ideas in the comments if you have any. Alright, so that is it for today. Remember to hit like, subscribe and bell. Click on the Ask Me Anything link in the video description and ask me anything. I will try my best not to ignore you. Remember to have fun while preparing for the GMAT and go check out my last video if you don't know that having fun is a critical principle to do well on the verbal section of the GMAT. I will see you in the next video.